Evening.
Evening, evening. Get all my beverages for the show. I rearranged them slightly. Hold on. The notes. Very professional. How you doing?
Good, good. Had that speed dating event that I talked about last time, and uh, the most interesting thing, which when I say it, it sounds obvious, but the most interesting things are those ones that you look back on and hang on a minute, that was a big revelation, despite it being very obvious in retrospect. That so this wasn't standard speed dating; it was teams of 4 or 5 guys and teams of 3 or 4 girls rotating around several board game tables. So it
Okay.
there wasn't
Four
the,
or
sorry?
five. So is it like what, 4v4 board games or something?
Yeah, yeah,
Huh, okay.
yeah. And there wasn't the chance to sort of interview someone that you'd get in a normal speed dating type thing, but it was easier in the sense of, oh, social, I can do this.
Yeah, you'll have a shared activity. It's a really good idea, actually. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, and
You skip straight over the rest of it.
the woman who was running it started the company Instadate because she got fed up with dating creeps through the internet.
Well, it is definitely an avenue for predators.
Yeah, she had some stories about what was it, a magician pretending to be an engineer, a guy with a foot fetish who wanted to take his shoes off on the first internet based or first date in real life, and it's like, yeah, I see why you wanted to start this. So it's like, let's meet normal people.
Well, I'm glad it went well.
The
So what's
thing,
these revelations you're talking
I'm
about?
normal in the sense of there were 4 other guys in the group that I was randomly assigned to, and I look around and it's like, oh, you're all normal. So I'm not competing with um, the top 5 percentile. It's like if
Ah, I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like there was a guy who was a painter and he had glasses with paint splatters on them, and everyone had moderate clothes. I was the most overdressed because I didn't know where to aim, so I shot at the top. Not quite the top. It
Enough.
wasn't a
I
full
think
suit, but not far off.
I think that's probably best. If you're going to stand out in any way, that's a good way to stand out.
Yep. So it was an enjoyable evening, and uh, then I spent several days wondering whether I just didn't get any matches because you write down the names of all the women or the people of the opposite gender because everyone was doing it, and then tick the ones that you would be interested in talking to, and then several days later. So this was Sunday, and then it was the end of Tuesday that the email arrived saying I got one match, which at nearly 30 years old is the furthest I've ever got in deliberately trying to date.
That's better late than never, I suppose.
Yes, yes, but I'm calling it a success for that, and so um, we've been texting back and forward. It hasn't been uh, a text storm. There's only been 4 total replies, like to me, to her, but reasonably sort of conversation like individual texts, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And she talked about how she's doing a sign language course with her sister and her brother's down from, I think it was Wellington for a few days. And I talked about how uh, the things that were going on in my life, like taking my son to Aikido and doing other things. And in the my second, so I sent one text, I replied to her, and then the latest text I sent, I mentioned that I'm looking forward to having a break where when while my son goes to my parents and thinking of going ice skating on Friday night, and it's like that felt like the right sort of. It's not me asking to meet up, but it's just subtly saying I have availability.
Mm, I go and do interesting things that you might want to come along to, if you choose.
Hmm.
You're opening the door very gentlemanly.
Yeah, and I'm not, well, I don't remember a great deal about her in particular, except in the sense of there was a lot of conversation happening and people introducing themselves and like, are you the one who was learning the guitar? You're not the one who had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and built a tiny house to live in when the baby was 10 months old, which sounds like an adventure. But so I can't
Oh.
quite remember what you were saying about yourself, so I'll just pick it up as I go. But I do remember her laughing, I think, while I was talking.
Didn't you think you said in your message to me that she called you a mad scientist?
Yes,
So
when
perfect.
uh, yeah, I sort of described myself a little bit, the overdressed engineer. Was it in this game that, or was it make quote funny sentence game that was designed by a very juvenile adolescent mind, possibly aimed at a slightly tipsy audience, but the consensus in the group was that it was not funny. It was just rude. But
Oh, the game.
yeah, yeah. But we'd
Only surprised.
yeah, she said, "Ah, yes, you're the mad scientist." And I was like, "I'll take mad scientist. It's close enough." Um, and it's interesting. I think I try and hide behind, like, internally. I'm weird. I'm awkward. I don't fit in well. I have trouble in social situations, and it's like when I was there, however, sort of taking the lead in the social group a little bit sort of comes naturally. And something that happened in that board game group, which uh, I was talking about stuff to do with my job and the steam engines we're building, and I was talking about stuff, and everyone was listening. And I asked one of the guys who was in my group as I was leaving if, or or just sort of sounded out whether it had been that I was sort of stomping everyone out. I'm like, no, no, it was interesting. And it's like, yeah, yeah, this seems to happen a fair bit. That when I get talking about things that are interesting, I seem to be able to monologue and people stay interested. And it's, I'm thinking that the idea that I'm really bad at this stuff is something I may have been hiding behind, where when you're in a social situation that you haven't practiced, of course you're ignorant to it and how to do it. And dating is an area where I am ignorant through lack of experience. But I'm not. I don't think I can say I lack the ability to socialize. Like I can read the obvious facial clues and that sort of thing to tell when someone's getting bored, and I just need to remember to pay attention to it. And I often sit there with sort of my hand on my mouth. It's like, shut up, Michael, listen to them and let them have their round of talking and listen to it and see what they have to say rather than naturally wanting to espouse and be the center of attention. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not totally awkward. I just the bit that I never got the hang of and have no wish to get the hang of is how to game the system of social interaction.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I'd say that I'm in a similar boat. That we're not one of the people that just gets it and is able to chit chat all day like most normal people do.
Hmm.
But when we do speak up and say something, generally, generally, everyone stops and listens. I
Hmm.
think it's something about being a little introverted and really interested in ideas, and then having, a slight bit of social anxiety, which just lifts the bar for what's something worth saying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then there's that extra bar on top of it of being a person who's interested in ideas,
Mm.
because you have such a higher range, like the top end of ideas is more available. So that most likely lifts the bar of what is interesting as well. So by the time you come around to going, oh, I'll say something, it's something that's really engaging for a lot of people. My wife always comments on this. I think it's one of her favorite things is we'll go to dinner, for example,
Mm.
and it'll be like you're saying, I don't know if you're like this or if you speak more than I do. I guess listen to my wee story and then I'll find out. Um, I'll be quiet for most of it. Everyone's yammering away and I'm sort of eating my meal or whatever. And then someone will ask me a question or something will come up and I'll say something and it'll be quiet because I'm not a loud person. And like everyone at the table goes silent and just listens. And she always tells me after the dinner, it's like, oh my God, I love it. I love that when that happens. It makes her feel, I don't know, like her flex. I don't get it, but that's all right. Yeah, it's funny how she likes to flex with me. It's weird, but that's all right.
Yeah, it's
I don't
like
know.
the.
It's
I wonder if. Okay, because I've talked before about how just to seize on that point,
hmm,
um, that it feels more natural for a woman to say my man than for a man, than from my perspective to say my woman. And
I feel like you'd say it to her, not about her.
yeah, yeah, where um it's like you've talked about before that we are, as men, what we are because through sexual selection over millennia, women made us this way.
Mm.
And that men are the higher or more varying gender. And so we're almost, and the more disposable one. So we're in one sense the active tool. Where, hang on a minute, yeah, because masculinity is often, in a more abstract sense, defined as active and now the word that comes to mind is outgoing, but radiative, possibly reaching out into the world, striving towards something, whereas the feminine is the receptive. Yeah, the active versus
Mm.
receptive. It's yin yang and so on. It's described in um, recognizably similar language in a whole lot of traditions, and it's the the man strives forth, but the woman sort of chooses which man to receive as hers, almost like you will be my protector and leader while I'm at the back telling you where to go, in a sense. Like that's the
Mm.
difference between
Yeah.
the navigator and the captain.
Hmm.
And
That's a good analogy. I like that.
someone who's busy navigating isn't going to be the best captain.
Well, you talked about this in the last show. I think you were talking about grabbing onto a rising star. The idea of you can't have two visions in a partnership. It
Mm.
has to be one, which means that there can only be one leader in a relationship. And to make things simple, as nature tends to do, it seems that one of us was selected to be leader and other to be the word we used. Companion's a good word.
Empowerer.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's support. It I think is probably the best one. Like I will support you on your journey and I will like encourage you and push you forward so that you can be the best that you can be and whatever it is that you're going to be, and then I'll benefit from that.
Or enable it in a positive sense.
Yeah.
Like, because we talk about enablement in the sense of like someone's an alcoholic and you buy them alcohol. You're enabling them even if you're telling them to stop. But enabling, like on my own, I can do a certain amount and we can enable ourselves to a certain degree. But like division of labor, if you split up the tasks, each one gets done better.
Mm.
And
We're specialized.
yeah, yeah, and that's an area that I'm oh, not sure how to broach, but I think it will be a very telling one. Now, I think the way I've thought of broaching it is something like, what do you think the differences are between men and women? Like, assuming there's a first date to come out of this texting, um, yeah, what do you think the differences are between men and women? What do you think they each do better? Because it's very fashionable these days to point out all the things women do better. But
Mm.
conversely, there must be things that men do better, and the ability to at least honestly consider the point would be very
Yeah,
telling.
it's a good trap to play as well. Because if you like, yeah, you may be able to say that, and then if she like lists 100 things that women can do better, and then nothing that men can do better, it's a bit of a red flag.
Hmm.
And then you could double down on that and go, well, what about men? And see if she flips out or not.
Yeah. And
I
things
think
like who's
another
better at
idea might
nurturing,
be,
or the idea that,
oh yeah,
or who enjoys nurturing more? Women. Okay. Do you think women are better nurturers? Yes. So do you think they should do the nurturing?
blasphemy. I think a good one might be to ask about her goals
Hmm. Yeah, because I'm thinking of
because
framing it
yeah,
as getting to know each other's paths so that we can choose whether to intertwine those paths.
mm, yeah, and it's great that you've got a response, but I wouldn't waste too much time trying to like beat around the bush with it. I don't mean go directly for and that's not what I mean. But I mean be be direct in asking questions about what she wants from her life so you can see if it can fit because you don't want to spend, heaps of time, trying to figure out if you can get along and know each other and playing the whole dance for, 6 months and avoiding the questions of, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Are you going to have a family?
Hmm.
Are you going to get married? Are you going to have children? Are you going to work? Are you going to stay at home? Or like, no one wants to have those conversations up front, but
Hmm. I feel like
you're,
having,
you know, you're later in the game.
yeah,
You got to be more direct about it.
and I like the upfrontness of those conversations is potentially a point of difference that stands out. It's like, as you've pointed out, although not trying to just regurgitate what you've said, but trying to
Mm,
develop my own take on it. But nonetheless, oh, I'm not here to entertain her. I'm here
mm,
to work out, is this something, is there something we would like to build here? And rather than
together.
potentially wasting both our times. And if it's like,
I like that twist on because when I was always talking about it, I was talking about you. But I
hmm,
like that twist about we. Like you and her are on a team already to figure out whether or not you can be on a team.
oh, that's an interesting take on it. Yeah, I love the way we take things from what we each say that aren't quite what we were trying to say, but say it better.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's
Yeah,
really good. There's something about that of we are here to figure out if we can work.
Mm.
And yeah, there's the whole, well, do I want to it be you? Which is probably a still big a question, but that's a good question as well. What's more important to figure out first? Do I want it to be you or can it be? Can it work?
Well, if you work
Mm,
out, do I want it to be first, then you're left with, I want it, but it can't work. And that's a bad situation or an unpleasant situation. If you work out, can
yeah,
it, then you get that worked out in the basic senses of like philosophical and political approximate alignment and say, oh, well, this ain't going to work. Okay, well,
yeah.
I'm glad I haven't wasted either of our times, like yours or mine.
Or hurt feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the other part of if you focus purely on what you want and you don't think about the practicalities, you're often going to chase after the kinds of people you shouldn't be with in the first place.
Hmm.
So there's that as well.
I think with your more disagreeable nature than mine, you tend to focus more on the I side of it, and it's certainly difficult to focus on someone else where where you don't know who they are yet,
Mm,
but there's a need to advocate for their place in it while you're building the conceptual structure.
yeah, you can't forget their feelings effectively.
Mm.
You Yeah, I do struggle with that to be honest sometimes. To take into account how they will receive things and how they will view the whole situation.
Mm.
Hmm. No one said it'd be easy.
But if it was easy, would it be worth it?
No, no. For all the hell we've been through, I don't think I would have as much of an attachment, or something I don't like about that word. As much as a bond
Mm.
with my wife as I do, and I think that's precisely because of all the hell she's put me through, and then got better.
Mm.
Whereas if she was always good, maybe I wouldn't have valued it, and
Yeah.
then cared less about her in general because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. There's something there.
Yeah. It doesn't feel right to sort of sketch out a. It's tempting, but it doesn't feel right to sketch out a this is the place in my life where I want you to sit, and this is the role I want you to fill. And it's in some ways easier to sketch that out in advance as in, this is what I'm looking for. But
Mm,
it it doesn't feel genuine or honest to someone else because then you're saying, come fill this mold rather than I am looking for, how do I phrase it?
mm,
Yeah, companionship, the unity. I'm looking for
mm.
someone to intertwine my life with because I know that an intertwined life is or can be much better than a solitary life. And I have some ideas about how it could work well, but when I think of
Yeah,
the 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 key points, it comes down to things like being able to talk about an idea without emotional investment, or being able to say that I'm playing with this idea. That doesn't just because I am willing to play the devil's advocate doesn't mean I think he's a good guy. Like your arguments about the points the Nazis had, that like they
mm,
were utterly wrong in so many ways, but it must be acknowledged that they had a reasonable public works scheme in the lead up to the Second World War type things. There was a Back to the Lands movement, like semi
Yeah,
hippie.
no one can be 100% wrong about everything.
Yeah, yeah,
What's the broken clock is right twice a day.
yeah. And the ability to acknowledge that and play with ideas and have the reaction of, that doesn't make sense. What? And the curiosity of, there's a disconnect here, an unexpected thing, or a point of view that hadn't been considered before, or something I've found relatively recently is the ability to say, I don't know,
Okay,
and
I
I
have a question.
solidly don't know. Yeah.
What's your expectation for early in the relationship? Say you find someone that you hit it
Hmm.
off with, and they're relatively all right on these things. Whatever. Yeah, actually, forget that. What is your expectation for the beginning of the relationship being like? Like your vision?
The very sketchy layout I have is basically meeting up every week or two to spend some time together and get to know each other. And
No, no, no. I don't mean that. I mean,
yep.
say you're together.
Hmm.
Um, let's say you live together,
Hmm.
as an example. You meet someone, you hit it off, you've dated a few times, and you get along. Now you're living together.
Hmm.
Because ideally, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that like?
Lots of little issues, but the background being both wanting positive, as in the issue is not as important as making it work is what's coming to mind, but it doesn't feel right. It's like there's a higher goal of the intertwined life is stronger, and it takes time to build that. And I think the pattern that I hope to set early and then continue is finding, acknowledging, and dealing with issues. And I
Mm,
think I expect that to be to establish that early and then to continue it. And this is something that isn't working. To pick a sort of banal example of, you're putting the toilet paper on the wrong way around. And the okay, here's something that bothers you or that bothers me. Let's sit down and work out how we feel or think about it in the
mm,
collective sense. As that collectiveness, that collective aspect grows. So by working together to build that joint personality, that's what I'd hope. It's not that things are easy, it's not that things are clear, it's that there is a clear sense of value of the unity of the joining and or a sense of value in what it could be, and yeah, working towards finding out what it is and developing it from there. Is that the sort of thing you were trying to ask?
um, I was just asking to see if you had a postcard vision of happiness or if you actually thought this through. Um, I'd say you thought it through, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the idea of postcard vision of happiness has kind of gone up in flames a number of years ago for me.
Good. Life's not like that, unfortunately.
Yep.
I constantly have to dissuade myself out of that. Uh, Speaking of which, maybe this is a good segue to Hamish's train wreck of the last few weeks topic.
Yep.
Uh, so, as I'm sure you remember last week, I was all excited about going back to college and getting a degree and going and becoming a psychologist.
Yep.
Um, Turns out the website that I was looking for estimated salaries for psychologists was
Mm.
like way off every other website that does, you know, data analysis of pay for any career.
Yeah.
It was off by like 50%. It was ridiculous. And in realizing that, I realized that I would make less money than I do right now as a farmer. When you take into account, you know, perks and subsidies from the government and etc. Um, which is something to come back to, I suppose. Which is, you know, it's that whole political issue of paying people to not reach for higher success in life,
Mm.
than in punishing them if they do. Anyway, let's stick with me. So I had this big roller coaster of super excited to go and change my life and go to college and get a degree and go and get a really high paying job doing something really intellectual that I find interesting. I was really excited, pumped for it, couldn't wait to go. And then I realized that the math didn't add up and money wise it would be a bad idea, which is, you know, rough.
Mm.
And it's doubly rough because I believed I had a very serious spiritual experience in the moment of deciding to go, in a conversation I had with my wife and something else, um, which is really confusing now. Um, but the language that I got from it wasn't specifically about going and doing this, which is even weirder. So I'm not quite sure what to do from there or what to take from that, you know?
Do you want to
So
dive into that
since
now or
then,
keep going?
uh, I don't really know much about that. I feel like I don't know if we have time, we might be able to do that
Yeah.
on our longer Saturday show.
Yeah, we don't have as much
Um,
time this time.
yeah, we'll write down some notes and we can come back to that next time. Um, yeah. So I had this big roller coaster up and down, super excited and then really miserable for a while. Got quite depressed over it. And then I've sort of come around and figured out how to how to structure my life going forward. Um, we watched a cool PGP Grey video by random coincidence that sort of helped change up how my wife and I are thinking about things. So that's helpful. I'm going to have to stay and work on the farm, which I actually like. Like, I really enjoy my job. It's just, it's not intellectual enough. I
Hmm.
need a thing to fill that world. So I've come all the way back around to our first conversation on this, where you sort of suggested do some stuff after work, part time, to try and figure out what to do. Um, we have both decided together that we have had too much recreation in our life, so I'm going to try and dial that back and do projects in the evenings. One of which would be this, and another one of which I'm going to start is I'm going to get back into programming, and I'm going to start making some apps for the devices that I like, simply because I like to use them.
Mm.
I'll do some education on the side, reading difficult books, and I might even try writing some essays on them. I'm not quite sure about that. I could do some remote certifications if I like, but that's all going to be purely hobby based. But the real interesting thing with all of this is it's brought up a bunch of questions in my life about, well, the meaning of life, really.
Mm.
Um, Part of me would love to be wealthy. And I have a bunch of questions about why. Why does making more money matter to me? Why is that a valid goal? What what is a sufficiently big enough problem to aim my life at when thinking about my life to justify the difficulty of life? We were sitting here realizing, okay, we might not need to advance any more than we do now. We make plenty of money. When you add up all of the cool things that we get, we don't really need more. We have enough to where it's not a problem now. I need to be better with money and save, and that's another topic for later. Is investing, but I don't know. It's just really run me into the what is the point of life problem, and I don't think I have a good answer. I feel meaning when I'm working. I like to work. Something about providing value to others, which is great. I wanted to go back to college, I think, because I wanted to get more skills and provide more value to others than I currently do. But I've just had this big cloud of questions around why do I want more money exactly? What am I going to do with it? Say I saved every penny I had now. What am I going to do with it tomorrow? Even if I invested it and somehow got out more money than I put in, what would I do with that? And what do I do with my time when I'm not working? We had this moment of sitting on the couch and going, we can't justify, working, eating, sleeping, playing with the kids, and then spending the rest of our life just relaxing, recreation, watching TV or playing games or buying crap. That's not what our life is for. It can't be. There's got to be something else.
Mm. So if I hypothetically handed you 10 grand in a year's worth of your time and told you,
Sorry, could you pass that a little bit?
yeah,
Perhaps I don't know if I understood entirely.
um, well, if as a thought experiment, if I could hand you 10 grand and then say, okay, you've got a year off from work during which, or no, say, I hand you this 10 grand to spend and have claim on your time for 10 hours a week, say. Now I'm telling you, with that time and that money, do something that will make it worth it. So at the end of, say, a several year period, the money that's not spent goes away. What can you do? Is it helping the people around you in the community? Is it helping people somewhere in the world?
Do do something worthwhile with the money that's not spending it on me.
Yeah, well, you've got your job for spending on you. This
And
is something
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not
So
you.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm 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 working through the
yeah.
yeah.
I'll shut up.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I'm just working through the scenario. I have 10 grand. I have to use it in a way that's worthwhile, quote unquote, that I can't directly benefit from.
I wouldn't say that. Just a
You
way
didn't
that.
say that, but that feels implicit in this. Or maybe that's my immediate reaction upon hearing the statement. You need to use this, make this money worthwhile.
Yeah, would
And
spending
if
it
you
on
don't
yourself be
use it,
worthwhile? Would building a boat and sailing
no.
around the world be worthwhile? For some people, that would be the thing that defines their lives.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because when you said make it worthwhile, my immediate reaction is spending even a single cent of it on me is not worthwhile.
This sounds very much like my attitude towards money 6 months ago.
Yeah, but I spend money on me all the time. I just feel miserable about it after. Um, I shouldn't laugh at that, but yeah. It may be nice for me, but that money doesn't feel like my money. Like you've
Hmm.
given me this 10 grand, and you've said do something with it that makes it worthwhile. And if you don't, it'll just disappear and be like wasted money.
Hmm.
Yeah, spending it all on temporary pleasures is not worthwhile. Putting it away in some kind of interest generating thing that just makes more money is also not worthwhile. I would I think I would do some research on the what's the name of it? Bjorn Lomberg's
Hmm.
research group. He's got a Copenhagen consensus, I think. He's got a list of how to best spend money to make the world a better place in terms of return on investment for making the world a better place. And I would do some research with that to find charities that are doing those things, and perhaps if they're not, do a local version of that and
Hmm.
then put the money towards that if I was going to make the money the most worthwhile. I think that's the best answer I have off the top of my head.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I know if it was my money, I wouldn't do it. I don't know why.
What about to flick it around a bit and focus on the say it wasn't 10 grand, but say there was a claim on your time of 10 hours a week
Mm.
that you can't do other things in. for whatever hypothetical reason, but it's like for this 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week, yeah, 5 hours on one day a week, do something that'll make it seem worth it. And at first, it's like, okay, here is a park bench. Now sit at the park bench, and you're not allowed to do anything until you can say it would be worth it to do that thing.
Define worth it.
This is where it gets personal because for some people, worth it would be set up some paints and an easel and capture the sunset, and that would sing to their soul.
Worth it to who?
To you. Because the worth that you give to others, the
Is that
motivating
what
factor is the worth that that has to you because we
is
empathize with
is
those
that what
around
my
us.
life is that what my life is about? Doing things that are worth it for me?
Your measure of worth is internal in the sense of even if you're looking at external measures of worth like possessions, the feeling of worth is internal to you. And so many people who try and externalize their measure of worth with possessions or something end up more miserable because they're not reflecting the internal measure of worth, where taking the time to learn to bake bread well can be so much more meaningful than buying a car.
That's weird. I have a reaction of if it's up to me for yeah, I have a feeling is something along the lines of if it's up to me to define what's worth it, then I don't know. There's like a call to wanting it to be something outside me, something objective. Your statement of the worth in helping others is the worth that it feels to you to do it.
Hmm.
Something about me hates that.
Yeah, I see what you
You
mean. Because when I
you
was,
don't do things for other people to make yourself feel good.
yeah, because the thing that got me out of the when I was looking at my own internal self-worth calculation, the thing that got me out of that wasn't seeing the worth myself. It was looking at it from what worth would another person think I had. As in, if I look at myself from the outside, then I can see all the things that are positive and worthwhile. But if I was looking at it from the inside, I couldn't.
Oh, I see it. Oh, that feels different. That's more. I can see how you tried to do the same thing here, but it feels different. Defining one's own value in order to feel secure. Um, yeah, I get that,
So
and I
what?
guess I had my struggles with that too. But this feels different. This is like I have a life. What do I do with it? And a part of me hears the answer of acquire resources for yourself and then enjoy your use of them as disgusting. I don't know. There's something about that that my soul does not like.
So if we flip it around a bit and look at, imagine a person, right? I'm not. defining anything about them, but I'm sure in your head that a whole lot of aspects of that person just spring to mind.
Hmm.
What would what could you do that would give meaning to this person who is not you, and it has to be done anonymously? Like they could possibly know your face, but it can't be so
Hmm.
that they will cry out in the street about how good a person you are.
It's hard to care about someone who you don't know anything about them.
Or what gets your blood boiling? What things that you see around you, presences or lacks of something,
Opportunity.
lack of opportunity?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My instinctive reaction is I don't want to give anything to anyone, but I fucking hate the people who stop people from reaching higher.
Hmm. Because that was an instant reply.
Yeah. Yeah. My brain immediately went to it. Maybe it's on the top of my mind because of psychology thing recently, but my brain immediately went to I don't like that a person who wants to work hard and get ahead is disincentivized to do that and punished for it. There's so many things swirling into this. I feel like, I've given a few answers to your questions, but in the state I'm in, it feels like to me there's too many things converging here. There's like
Hmm.
5 or 6 different problems I'm working through in my head that I do think we should talk about, but we need to split them out. I feel like they're all mashing into a head that's creating this meaning question or whatever that I had, and that
Hmm.
we need to break them apart and deal with them one by one because I feel like you've asked a few questions and I know now thinking about it that one of the questions was for one of those topics and one of those questions was for another one and then one of them was for another one. It's not unified.
And we don't have the time to do that tonight.
No, no, yeah, we'll have to save that for next time. But it's a good jumping off point. We'll write up a list of notes for next time show notes.
Yes.
Hey, follow up.
We'll
Follow
have,
up.
we'll have a
Haha.
post
Very
show.
professional. Yeah, we'll have our wee business meeting afterwards. Haha business. Um yeah, we've decided to do 2 recordings a week now. So this will be a little nice little bumper show and then big show later in the week.
Are we going to do
Gotta
two
figure out
releases
when
a
to
week?
yes. Yes,
Oh,
I'm gonna do that.
let's build up a little bit of a backlog first so that we've got some storage.
All right, fair enough. I think we're already about 3 ahead,
Oh, good.
so maybe we'll get it so that there's what I don't know. We'll figure that out after the show. But either way, I want to separate about a few of the things that we've talked about and try and hit them one at a time. And we'll do that on a Saturday. So we'll say good night to everyone, even though it's only just started.
Yeah,
Funny little bumper show. Enjoy the extra treats.
relatively short and sweet at only nearly an hour long.
It does feel short and sweet to me. Hope you liked it.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.